The sharp sound of glass shattering echoed through the room before anyone could react. A frozen instant in which every gaze turned toward the unexpected, hearts pounding, as if something unseen had just passed through the space. There was no foreseeing that this seemingly ordinary day would mark the beginning of an irreversible transformation. Who could imagine that the trivial might suddenly become the stage for the extraordinary? The scent of coffee still hung in the air, mingling with the gentle perfume of flowers on the table. Yet now there was a dense, almost tangible tension. Each breath carried a new weight, difficult to decipher. What had been broken, and why? Beneath the surface, questions accumulated, whispering doubts that no one dared give voice to. In the corner, an old portrait seemed to watch everything with the gaze of one who has witnessed too much. Memories trapped in frames, silent but insistent, like the promise that the past never truly rests. As a drop of blood slid silently down the cut finger, time stretched, minutes transforming into eternities. Silence was no longer a simple absence of sound. It became a living force, pushing each person inward. There were forces at play that went beyond everyday logic. Why is it that, in the most unexpected moments, everything seems to flirt with the abyss? Where does this sense come from that something greater is unfolding, even when we cannot see beyond what is directly before us? The clock on the wall marked an implacable rhythm, indifferent to the subtle chaos that had arisen. The hands moved on, immune to human discomfort, as if reminding us that time waits for no one, no matter what happens. A light breeze stirred the curtains, carrying the promise of change. It was impossible to ignore the impression that, after this moment, nothing would ever be the same. But was anyone truly prepared to face what was to come? The familiarity of the objects around, books, paintings, a favorite armchair, seemed to dissolve, turning everything strange, as if each thing now held a new secret, an enigma waiting to be revealed. It was then that a dormant memory awakened, cutting through the mind like lightning. The story never told, the secret locked away, the ancient fear that has always haunted the deepest dreams. What we keep inside, silently, can surface at the most unexpected time, changing everything around us. There are questions we prefer not to ask, truths we fear to know. But what if the unknown is not merely a threat? What if it also contains the key to something grand, capable of transforming not just an instant, but an entire existence? What is hidden in the silence between words, in interrupted gestures, in eyes that turn away when a forbidden subject draws near? The heavy atmosphere seemed to invite everyone to revisit their own inner labyrinths, confronting old shadows and forgotten passions. Feelings that on other days would be repressed now rose with unusual, almost wild intensity. Fear, hope, desire, guilt, all mixed together, creating a thick and unpredictable brew. How can one explain this sudden avalanche of sensations? Why do certain experiences have the power to split open our seemingly solid routines, exposing all that we have tried to bury? Are we truly so different from what we appear to be? Or do we just hide behind carefully constructed masks, necessary to survive the day-to-day? The phone rang, breaking the collective trance, an old, insistent ring, heavy with meaning. Who could be calling at this exact moment? Was it coincidence, or part of this intricate game of invisible forces? The sound vibrated in the walls, mingling with the echo of broken glass, reinforcing the sense that reality was now malleable, subject to unpredictable powers. What, in truth, lay behind that call? An awaited answer, devastating news, a new dilemma. The simple act of picking up the phone became a watershed, a point of no return. An entire universe of possibilities awaited on the other end of the line. As the receiver was lifted, words seemed to form before they were even spoken. What would be said? More importantly, what would be heard? Sometimes truth is not found in clear sentences, but in pauses, in sighs, in hesitations that betray everything that cannot yet be revealed. The voice, when it finally made itself heard, carried a note of urgency, a call to action, an invitation to go beyond one's own limits. Was this the beginning of a journey, or the announcement of an end? Each phrase held within it the spark of something irreversible, igniting dormant possibilities. What to do in the face of the unexpected? Flee or face it? The answer to this question, perhaps, could only be found by plunging deep into one's own fear. And it is in this plunge that each one comes face to face with the rawest and most genuine parts of themselves. What remains when certainties collapse? When the everyday shatters like the glass in that room and everything becomes fragment? Is it possible to gather the pieces, or is something always lost forever? The sound of the wind, the scent of blood, the weight of silent gazes, and every detail seemed to carry a hidden message, an invitation to decipher what truly matters. Why do some stories only begin when everything seems to have ended? The room, once cozy, now seemed uncharted territory. Familiar objects became strange, as if each held a secret memory, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Time, relentless, continued its march, indifferent to human dramas. But within each person, something had changed forever. What was lost that morning? What was found at the cost of comfort and routine? And more importantly, what price are we willing to pay to discover who we truly are when the unexpected forces us to shed all our masks? The sense that something vital was about to happen hung in the air, charged with electricity and doubt. There was no turning back. The only way was forward, to face the unknown with open eyes and an alert heart. Every tick of the clock, every subtle movement, every unspoken word now carried new weight, new meaning. For sometimes, something must break for the truth to finally be revealed. But are we ready for this truth? And if it is more unsettling, more intense, more liberating than we imagined? Only time, cruel and generous, could answer. And as the answer did not come, what remained was silence, dense, vibrating with both promise and threat, the beginning of everything, or perhaps merely the opening of the next chapter. He woke the next morning with a strange sensation, a weight on his chest he couldn't quite define. Light filtered through the half-open window, dancing on the walls as if playing with his doubts. The clock read 7:20, but he lay there 10 minutes longer, wondering if the anxiety had roots in something real or was just another peculiar dream, the kind that vanishes the moment your head touches the pillow. In the hallway, hurried footsteps, doors slamming. The routine of an old building where the lives of others intertwine with our own in ways as subtle as they are inevitable. The smell of coffee drifted into his apartment from some neighbor, awakening a vague memory of happy mornings and laughter around the table before everything began to shift. He descended the stairs slowly, feeling the cold iron rail, carrying with him that muffled restlessness, trying to disguise it before the elevator's mirror, where his reflection looked more tired than the day before. In the lobby, he met Mrs. Lucian, who watered the plants each morning with the same devotion she gave to gossip. She smiled, yet there was a shadow in her eyes as if she were keeping a secret. "Good morning," he said. She replied, but her voice was hoarse, almost a whisper. Something was out of place, but not the kind of question asked there, among hurried glances and curt greetings. On the street, the noise of cars and the smell of fresh bread brought back the city's flow. He wandered without purpose, observing closed shop windows, people with guarded faces, each carrying an invisible burden. He stopped at a newsstand and leafed absently through the day's headlines, but nothing caught his eye. He only realized the passage of time when he felt his phone vibrate in his pocket. A message from an unknown number. "Don't forget what you saw yesterday." His heart raced. He looked around, searching for a familiar face, someone who might have sent the message, but no one seemed to notice him. He tried to recall exactly what had happened the night before, but everything was shrouded in fog. He remembered a lit window, a voice calling his name, something falling to the floor, and a fear that defied explanation. Still holding his phone, he was overwhelmed by a nearly childlike curiosity, a blend of fear and excitement. He returned home, but didn't go up. He lingered in the lobby, watching people come and go. An old man with a cane passed, a woman with a heavy backpack, a child tugging at his mother's hand. None of them seemed threatening, but none seemed quite the same as yesterday either. He climbed the stairs, avoiding the elevator, feeling as if each step was a test for his memory. On his floor, he noticed Mrs. Lucia's apartment door slightly ajar, a narrow gap, but enough to see the living room light on. He thought of knocking, but sudden shyness held him back. He stood there for a few seconds, eyes fixed on the crack, heart pounding in his ears. Then he heard a noise, as if something heavy had dropped. He called her name, but no answer. He pushed the door gently, catching a strange scent, a mix of mold and something metallic. The room was in disarray, fallen vases, an overturned chair. Amid the mess, Mrs. Lucia sat on the sofa, wide-eyed, as if expecting him. She whispered his name and beckoned him closer. As he approached, he noticed an envelope on the table addressed to him in tremulous handwriting. He picked it up, hands clammy, and opened it. Inside was a faded old photograph of two children playing in a park. On the back, a phrase, "Don't forget who you are." Mrs. Lucia gripped his hand and said in a near voiceless tone that he needed to trust her. Strange things were happening in the building, she said. People coming and going in the night. Sounds from the basement. Lights flickering in empty apartments. He listened in silence, feeling the weight of the mystery spreading through his chest. He asked if she knew who sent the message, but she only lowered her head. She said sometimes she heard footsteps in the corridor even when everyone should be asleep. She said that one night she saw a shadow standing before the elevator, motionless for minutes, staring into nothing. He left with the envelope in his pocket, trying to piece together a puzzle he barely understood. He decided to go down to the garage, where, according to Mrs. Lucia, strange things happened. The hall to the basement was dark and damp, the smell of gasoline mingling with cement. Each step echoed on the walls, as if even the sounds were afraid to spread. At the maintenance door, usually locked, he found it ajar. He hesitated, then entered. Inside, tools lay scattered, wires exposed, a single bulb swinging from the ceiling. In the corner, a wooden box with its lid half open. He approached, fingers trembling, and opening it, found an old tape recorder still running, its tape turning slowly. He pressed play out of curiosity, and a voice began to speak. He recognized it instantly as his own, though he had no memory of recording anything. The tape recounted things he'd never told a soul, about the past, about a night he'd run away from home, about secrets buried and promises forgotten. He listened, stunned, as the tape played on, each word triggering dormant memories, fragments of a story that seemed not to belong to him, yet was entirely his. At the end, anxious silence, then a phrase spoken by another, deep, unfamiliar voice. Time to remember. He returned home dazed, envelope in hand, head spinning. He sat at the table, spread out the old photos he found in a drawer, searching for some link between them and the photo from the envelope. In all of them, a common detail. A barren tree in the background, the same tree from Mrs. Lucia's photo. Suddenly he realized it wasn't just any tree, but the one in the park behind the building, a place he hadn't visited in years. Compelled by an inexplicable urge, he decided to go. He put on his coat, grabbed his keys, and left as night began to fall, the air growing heavier, the city's lights flickering on one by one. At the park, he found everything deserted except for the tree, still standing, twisted, like a silent sentinel. He approached slowly, feeling the damp earth beneath his feet. Nearing it, he saw a note pinned to one of the lower branches. It was written in the same handwriting as the envelope. "Don't be afraid to remember." A chill ran down his spine, as if someone were watching from the shadows. He stood there for minutes, absorbing the silence, trying to gather his thoughts. The phone rang, breaking the moment. A restricted number. He answered, voice trembling. On the other end, just a whisper. "Go home. You are not alone." He hung up, heart racing, fear mingled with curiosity. He hurried back, feeling footsteps behind him, but when he turned, there was nothing. Arriving at the building, he saw the corridor lights were out. Only the elevator illuminated, doors open as if waiting for him. He entered, pressed his floor, but the elevator descended to the basement with a jolt instead. The doors opened slowly, revealing the dark corridor. At the end, someone stood. He couldn't make out the face, only the silhouette. The person beckoned him closer. He summoned all his courage and moved forward, palms sweating, heart pounding. As he drew near, he recognized the figure, the child from the photo, now grown, looking at him with an enigmatic smile. "Do you remember me?" the person asked. He tried to answer, but the words wouldn't come. Memories surged through him, childhood scenes, laughter, tears, promises made beneath the barren tree. He remembered sleepless nights, a secret shared only between them, something they swore never to tell. Before he could say anything, the person put a hand on his shoulder and said, "It's time to fulfill what we promised." The corridor seemed to dissolve around them, the walls fading, the floor vanishing beneath their feet. Suddenly, they were back in the park, under the tree, as if time had folded in on itself. There, everything made sense. The fear, the anxiety, the notes, the recording. It was time to face what he had always tried to forget. He looked at the person beside him and, for the first time in years, felt at home. The city outside went on, indifferent to small mysteries, but he knew that from that moment on, nothing would ever be the same. When we look closely at the vastness of human paths, We notice an invisible thread connecting experiences, expectations, and choices. This subtle web, often eluding our immediate understanding, is the fertile ground where the most transformative ideas take root. It is curious how, throughout history, major advances and shifts in paradigm have almost always emerged from unlikely places, often running counter to what had become consensus. Discomfort with what is established, the urge to question, to seek beyond what is given, forms the core of creativity and renewal. Each step outside the line is, in itself, a rehearsal for freedom. Yet, can every restlessness generate something new? Or is there a fine line between productive chaos and unproductive dispersion? It is not uncommon to encounter the feeling that everything has already been said, every angle already explored, that there is nothing left but to reinvent the old in alluring guises. Yet it is precisely at this impasse that the unexpected reveals itself. The uncomfortable silence of stagnation is often the antechamber to a creative leap. Why then do we insist so much on formulas? Perhaps the fear of failure, or the comforting seduction of predictability. Yet, it is in challenging the known that true innovation arises. When was the last time you dared to contradict your own certainties? What happened afterwards? Thus, the act of creation, whether in thought or in action, is clothed in a fascinating paradox. It relies both on the courage to let go of the moorings and the wisdom to recognize one's own limits. It is like crossing a bridge that builds itself as we take each step. At times, the ground seems to give way, but it is in these moments that the crossing gains meaning. The landscape transforms, the horizon expands, and suddenly something that seemed impossible takes shape as real. Have you ever wondered how many of these bridges we fail to build for fear of not reaching the other side? And what if failure were only a stage, not a destination? There is a strange beauty in unsuccessful attempts. In each mistake, an alternative path arises, a lesson crystallizes. Failure, so often seen as something to be avoided, can be the key to unlock doors that remain closed to those who never risk. What stories would we have to tell if we valued attempts more than results? Perhaps the history of humanity would be written in less triumphant tones, but infinitely more complex and human. Are we ready to accept our vulnerabilities as a source of power rather than shame? It is not rare that the fear of exposure prevents revolutionary ideas from surfacing. The concern over others' judgment paralyzes creative impulses, confining them to the realm of unacted thought. But what would happen if, for a moment, we could all act without fear, as if we were free from any external expectation? The plurality of voices and perspectives that would emerge from such an exercise could entirely redraw the map of possibilities. Have you ever imagined how many truths we suffocate out of a need to belong? How many worlds we fail to create in order to fit into the narrow limits of what is considered acceptable? In contemplating these questions, it becomes impossible not to notice how language, with all its rules and ambiguities, is also a territory of contest and reinvention. The way we name things defines what we can think, feel, and share. When we invent new words or subvert meanings, we are expanding the space of the possible. The poet, the scientist, the inventor, each in their own way, challenges the boundaries of what can be said and thought. Is not language itself a bridge between chaos and order, between desire and realization? There is, however, a silent danger in the unchecked pursuit of novelty, the superficiality of empty originality. Not everything that is new is necessarily meaningful. The true creative gesture lies not merely in breaking patterns for its own sake, but in the ability to establish unexpected connections, to generate meaning where previously there was only noise. In the midst of abundant stimuli and information, distinguishing what arises from a deep vision from what is merely a product of chance becomes a demanding task. How to tell the essential from the accessory, the authentic from the artificial. Are we trained for this exercise of attention, or do we settle for fleeting sparks? In every small daily revolution, whether in thinking or in acting, lies the power to reconfigure the world. The apparently banal gesture, the subtle deviation, the uncomfortable question. These are the elements that, added together, open new paths. And if, instead of seeking definitive answers, we became accustomed to living within the questions, what would change in our way of being in the world if we accepted incompleteness as a perennial condition? Perhaps the urgency for solutions would give way to the calm curiosity of the process. Perhaps, just perhaps, we would be kinder to ourselves and more attentive to others. And yet, there is something unsettling in recognizing that every choice, no matter how small, carries within it a universe of aborted possibilities. In following one path, we renounce so many others. And life is composed of this interplay of presences and absences. Awareness of this mechanism can paralyze, but it can also liberate. We are not condemned to repetition. At any moment, we can open a new deviation, however tiny. Which paths have you left unexplored? What prevents you from taking the first step toward the unknown? Time, that invisible fabric weaving our experience, is perhaps the most subversive of elements. It does not respect scripts. It does not submit to wills. And, paradoxically, it is in time that all metamorphoses happen. The perception of finitude can be both a prison and an invitation to intensity. In recognizing there will be no rehearsals, that everything happens in real time, we may experience a state of radical presence where each instant becomes a unique occasion for creation. Have you ever thought about how many opportunities hide in the folds of daily life, waiting only for a more attentive look? This awareness makes space for a new way of existing, less preoccupied with final destinations, more open to the richness of the journey, allowing oneself to be traversed by experiences. Letting the unexpected alter plans and certainties, embracing mistakes as part of the process. This posture, though it defies the instinct for control, can be deeply liberating. And if, instead of asking where we want to arrive, we began to ask how we can be fully here, now? What horizons would open up before this inversion of perspective? In the end, it is inevitable to realize that every singular journey contributes to the collective weaving of reality. We are, at once, authors and characters, builders and inheritors of worlds. Each gesture, each word, each silence composes the multiple symphony of human experience. What do you have to add to this unfinished concert? What unique note do you intend to leave resonating, even after silence reigns again? The silence grew ever denser as they proceeded along the corridor, lit only by the faint reflection of their lanterns. The walls, once smooth, now bore marks, drawings, inscriptions whose origins none could explain. Lucas, the most skeptical among them, paused to study one of the carved symbols, intrigued to notice its repeated presence, as if it were some kind of warning. Running his fingers over the engraving, he felt a subtle vibration, as though the very concrete pulsed beneath his skin. None of them knew what it meant, but the sensation of being watched deepened with every step. Mariana, until then silent, shared that she had heard of similar phenomena in other expeditions, though the accounts were always vague and riddled with gaps. It was said that in ancient tunnels, certain symbols served as protection or warning, but no one had ever fully deciphered them. The group pressed on, and suddenly the sound of water dripping along the walls echoed differently, passing, it seemed, through an invisible barrier. Looking back, they saw that the corridor vanished into utter darkness, no trace of light, even with lanterns pointed into the black. Ahead, however, a partially open metal door became visible, rusted yet still sturdy. Together they pushed it, and the screech reverberated through the space, so loud that they froze, waiting for some reaction from the environment. When nothing immediate occurred, they entered a circular chamber, at the center of which rested a stone table coated in a thin layer of dust. On the table, fragments of old paper lay, apparently preserved by the absence of moisture. Pedro, ever prepared, put on gloves from his backpack and began to examine the documents. To the group's surprise, some pages were written in unknown languages, while others contained detailed drawings of mechanisms and underground blueprints that resembled the place where they stood. One sketch depicted a spiral staircase concealed behind a false wall, rekindling everyone's excitement. Guided by the roughly drawn map, they set out to find this point. Following the indicated passages, they almost couldn't believe it when they found a wall that seemed solid, but vibrated lightly at their touch. Lucas pressed one of the more worn stones, and with a dry click, the surface slid aside to reveal the spiral staircase. The scent of oxidized iron mingled with the heavy air, and with each step downward, the cold intensified. Mariana noticed their lanterns flickering sporadically, though the batteries were full. Pedro suggested possible magnetic interference, rare but not impossible in such deep and ancient structures. At the bottom of the stairs, they found themselves in a vast hall, supported by rough-hewn stone pillars beneath an arched ceiling. On the floor, circular marks indicated that heavy objects had once been moved there, though there was no sign of machinery. At the center of the hall, something wholly unexpected. A wide well with polished edges surrounded by small stone blocks, each bearing a different symbol. As they approached, a current of warm air rose from the depths of the well, a phenomenon improbable for such a place. Pedro tossed a stone inside and, judging by the acoustics, deduced there was water at least 20 meters below. Mariana, ever curious, pointed to one of the blocks with a symbol similar to that seen in the corridor. She recalled reading that in some ancient cultures, repeated symbols in strategic places acted as a kind of key or password, activating hidden mechanisms. While they analyzed the blocks, a distant noise reached them as if something moved slowly above. The sound echoed through the hall, and they soon realized that the entrance by which they had come was being sealed by a stone door sliding down from the ceiling. On impulse, they rushed back, but the passage was already completely blocked. Lucas tried to force the door with a metal bar, to no avail. Now, they had no choice but to explore the hall and search for another exit. Around the well, they found levers camouflaged among the blocks. Pedro proposed that these might be part of a mechanism to open another door, or even to provide access to the well itself. They decided to operate the levers in sequence, following the order suggested by the drawing found on the stone table. Nothing happened at first, but as they shifted the last block with the repeated symbol, they heard a click, and one of the hall's walls slowly opened, revealing a narrow, rustic corridor. They entered cautiously, soon noticing that this corridor differed from those before. The floor was ancient wood, creaking under each step. The walls were lined with metal plates bearing inscriptions in low relief, And at certain points, small windows offered glimpses of parallel passages filled with rusted mechanisms and gears stilled for decades. Suddenly, the corridor opened into a small chamber dominated by a strange machine. It resembled a gigantic clock with pendulums, cogwheels, and a glass structure protecting a central core in which a bluish crystal emitted barely perceptible sounds. Fascinated, Lucas approached and, almost absent-mindedly, touched the machine's base. Instantly, the space was suffused with a dim light, and the gears began to turn, slowly but steadily, as if the machine were awakening from a deep sleep. The explorers' lanterns failed completely, and for a brief moment the only illumination was the soft glow of the crystal. Pedro noticed that the hands of the great clock pointed to symbols identical to those found on the papers atop the stone table. Mariana deduced that this mechanism might control not only access to the hall, but the very flow of air and water underground. When they tried to move away from the machine, they realized that the doors had shut automatically. The ticking of the gears grew louder and the floor began to vibrate gently. Suddenly, the crystal shone intensely, and as if by magic, the metal plates on the walls reflected images from times past, scenes of people they had never met, but who had clearly been there centuries earlier. It was then that they heard voices, not loud, but perfectly clear, as if whispered into each ear. The phrases made no immediate sense, fragments in different languages, some modern, some wholly unknown. Pedro, fluent in 3 tongues, recognized among the voices a plea for help in Old French, a prayer in Latin, and scattered words in archaic Spanish. Lucas, increasingly astonished, began recording everything on his phone, but when he tried to play back the audio, there was only static. Mariana felt a chill, though the hall was warmed by the crystal's light, and glimpsed in the glass's surface the reflection of someone not in their group, a hooded figure, which soon vanished. The mechanism finally ceased, and the doors opened abruptly, revealing a staircase spiraling upward to the surface. They climbed quickly, feeling the air grow lighter and fresher with each step. Emerging, they found themselves in a silent garden, encircled by ancient walls covered in ivy. The sky was dark, but there was no sign of the hours they had spent underground. Their watches showed the same time as when they had descended, and none could explain how that was possible. Pedro noticed his backpack was heavier, and upon opening it, found among his equipment an old notebook with leather covers, which had not been there before. Leafing through it, he recognized the same symbols and drawings seen on the subterranean papers, but now accompanied by recent notes in Portuguese, describing step by step everything they had experienced in the tunnels. The group exchanged silent glances, both frightened and fascinated. With each page turned, feelings of déjà vu washed over them, as if trapped in a cycle, reliving the experiences of explorers who had come before. There was no rational explanation for the notebook, or for the lost time, or for the voices now preserved only in memory. But all of them knew that something extraordinary had happened below, and that, in some mysterious way, they were now part of the long, enigmatic history of those forgotten tunnels. Night descended swiftly and densely upon the city, painting the streets with shadows and uncertainty. Clara hurried along, feeling her heart racing in her chest. She glanced back at every corner, wary of each step on the wet asphalt. The echo of her own shoes rang too loudly in her ears. The mysterious letter was still folded in her pocket, the paper already crumpled by her trembling fingers. She had received the message only a few hours earlier, with clear instructions. go to the abandoned building on Station Street, alone, and tell no one. Across the city, Raphael too moved with urgency. He had uncovered crucial clues, details that changed everything and could not wait until dawn. He was about to cross the bridge when he noticed a black car parked by the sidewalk. The tinted window hid whoever was inside, but the running engine gave the impression someone was waiting. Raphael hesitated, feeling cold sweat trickling down his neck. He knew he had no choice. He pressed on, pretending to ignore the car, but alert to any movement. The sky began to threaten heavy rain. Lightning streaked the horizon, briefly illuminating the deserted scene. Clara arrived at the building and stopped before the rusted door. Fear and curiosity wrestled within her. She took a deep breath and pushed the door, which yielded with a loud creak echoing through the emptiness. Inside, there was only darkness, except for the pale light from a street lamp outside filtering through a broken window. The smell of mold and dust was almost suffocating. She advanced down the corridor, her heart pounding and her senses sharpened. Suddenly, footsteps sounded behind her. Clara turned in alarm, but no one was visible. She strained to hear, trying to discern whether it was just the wind or something more. A door slammed in the distance, and she felt her throat tighten. She remembered the instructions in the letter and continued on, crossing the main hall until she reached the stairs. On the second floor, a faint light seemed to flicker, as if someone had left a cell phone on. She approached slowly, trying not to make a sound. The cell phone was on the floor, vibrating from time to time, displaying only a brief message. "You are close." Clara felt her legs tremble but did not retreat. She picked up the device, looking around, ready to run if needed. The silence was heavy, and every step made the wooden floor groan beneath her feet. At that moment, Raphael appeared at the entrance of the building, breathless and wet from the rain that was beginning to fall. He called Clara's name, but his voice barely echoed down the dark corridor. Trusting his intuition, he climbed the stairs quickly, guided by the faint light upstairs. When he arrived, he saw Clara standing still, holding a cell phone that was not hers. They exchanged a fleeting look full of relief, but the moment was interrupted by a loud noise coming from the basement. Both froze, listening. The sound repeated, as if something or someone was trying to get out. Raphael whispered to Clara not to move and descended cautiously, trying to see what was happening. The basement was even darker and more cramped. The smell of rust and something burnt intensified with every step. Raphael felt along the wall for a switch, but found nothing. On the floor, he saw strange marks like scratches. He heard muffled whispers as if voices were arguing in secret. The fear was almost palpable, but he went on to the end of the corridor. Suddenly, the flashlight of his phone lit up a shadow moving quickly among old boxes. Raphael called for Clara, but she didn't answer. Panic constricted his chest, afraid something had happened to her. He rushed back upstairs, but Clara was no longer there. On the floor, the cell phone she had found was left behind, and the back door, once locked, now stood ajar, swinging in the wind. Raphael ran to the door, peered outside, and saw Clara being led away by two hooded figures. He shouted, but his voice was lost in the storm beginning to rage. He chased after them, stumbling through puddles and scattered debris in the alley. The hooded figures pushed Clara into a black van, which sped away before Raphael could reach it. Desperate, he dropped to his knees, feeling powerless. But he did not give up. He searched the ground and found a bracelet that Clara wore, fallen in the rush to escape. He kept the object, determined not to let things end this way. Meanwhile, inside the van, Clara tried to understand what was happening. The kidnappers said nothing, only covered her head with a black sack and tied her hands. The smell of the fabric was suffocating. She tried to calm herself, recalling the message in the letter, struggling to find meaning. The vehicle drove for several minutes before coming to a sudden stop. Clara was led outside, her knees scraping the rough ground until finally she was made to sit in a chair. The sack was removed, and a harsh light blinded her for a moment. In front of her, a woman with a firm voice and cold eyes began to ask questions. "Who did you talk to after receiving the letter?" Clara denied knowing anything beyond what she already knew. The woman did not believe her and increased the pressure, threatening consequences if she did not cooperate. Clara realized everything was more serious than she had imagined. In the city center, Raphael raced against time. He called the few trusted contacts he had, asking for help. He replayed all the facts in his mind, trying to find a clue about Clara's whereabouts. He remembered the black car on the bridge, the scratches in the basement, the whispers he'd heard. Every detail now seemed a piece of a sinister puzzle. While he searched for answers, an unknown number sent a message to his phone. "If you want to see her alive, come alone to the old dock warehouse. Tell no one." Raphael felt his blood run cold, but he knew he had no alternative. He took Clara's bracelet, squeezed it in his hand, and left home without telling anyone. The rain was heavier now, making the streets nearly impassable. Arriving at the warehouse, Raphael was met by two men with a threatening look who searched him and escorted him inside. The place was dark, lit only by a few fluorescent lights. In the center, Clara sat, her eyes red from crying but unharmed. The woman with the cold gaze awaited him. Raphael faced the situation, searching for a way out. But before he could act, the woman said they had little time. She revealed secrets about Raphael and Clara's past, facts that turned everything they thought they knew about themselves upside down. The tension mounted with every word, until one of the captors received an urgent call. Something had gone wrong. The atmosphere grew even more strained. Suddenly, gunshots rang out outside, forcing everyone to the ground. Doors were broken down, and screams filled the warehouse. Amid the chaos, Raphael ran to Clara and tried to untie her, but one of the captors caught up with them, pointing a gun. Time seemed suspended, everyone trapped in a moment of pure fear. A new group entered, hooded, and began a direct confrontation with the kidnappers. Raphael and Clara took advantage of the confusion to flee out the back of the warehouse. They ran without looking back, the sounds of the struggle fading behind them. Wind and rain battered their faces, but they did not stop. They knew they were not yet safe. The night remained dense, full of danger, and both sensed the secrets in this story were far from over. Even so, they pressed on, united by desperation and by hope that soon everything would make sense. The journey we have taken so far has been more than a simple reflection on change and growth. It has been an invitation to look inward, to realize that every step, no matter how small, is essential in building a life of greater purpose. Throughout this video, we have explored together the challenges we all face, the doubts that persist when we think about transforming something in ourselves, and the small victories that often go unnoticed but are, in truth, the ones that carry us further along our path. Now we come to the moment of closing this cycle, but before that, I invite you to allow yourself just for a moment to feel the weight and potential of the choices you make every day. Perhaps you have noticed that transformation does not depend solely on great decisions, but also on ordinary daily actions, on simple gestures, on a word of encouragement, on a request for help, on a more attentive look at those beside you, and, above all, at yourself. So often we demand immediate results from ourselves and end up forgetting the value of the process, the beauty that exists in gradual evolution, the strength that grows in the silent persistence of attempts that did not succeed, yet shaped our courage to try again. Consider all that you have overcome so far, the difficulties that once seemed insurmountable and are now only memories. What has changed within you? What have you learned from each challenge? The answers may not be clear now, but the truth is, you already carry within you all you need to build the reality you seek. The secret lies in believing more in yourself, in recognizing your value, in not letting fleeting criticism or moments of failure bring you down. Life unfolds in cycles, and none of them are final. Every new beginning holds within it the possibility to do things differently, to do them better. If you have come this far, it is because there is within you a genuine desire to change, to grow, to seek a more authentic version of yourself. That alone is a reason for pride. It does not matter the size of your steps, but the direction you choose to follow. For this reason, I suggest a simple exercise, one that can have a profound impact on your everyday life. Choose one aspect of your life, whether personal, professional, emotional, or spiritual, and, starting today, commit to taking a small step toward the change you wish to see. It might be waking up a few minutes earlier to plan your day, taking a moment to express gratitude, starting a new habit, or even letting go of something that no longer makes sense. What matters is to begin. Remember that self-transformation is a continuous process. There is no finish line. Each day is a new opportunity to rewrite your story, to learn something new, to forgive yourself for past mistakes and move forward with greater lightness. Allow yourself to err, to learn, to laugh, to cry, to celebrate your achievements, even the small ones. Sometimes the strength we search for outside is within us, simply waiting to be recognized. I know that change can be daunting. The fear of the unknown, of rejection, of failure is part of the journey. But I want to remind you that you are not alone on this path. There is an entire community here, people who share the same longings, who also seek meaning, courage, and inspiration to keep moving forward. Use this space to exchange experiences, seek support, inspire, and be inspired. When we connect with others who also wish to grow, we become stronger, more determined, and less alone. So if something we discussed today resonated with you, if it touched your heart or sparked new hope, allow yourself to share your thoughts in the comments. You do not need to identify yourself. You can do so anonymously, but take this first step to express what you feel, what you desire, what you fear. This simple act can be the beginning of a great transformation, not only for you, but for all who read and identify with your story. I want to thank you deeply for accompanying me this far, for making space in your own routine to reflect on your journey. I truly hope that you continue forward with greater confidence, with an open heart, and with the certainty that change is indeed possible, one step at a time. And if you wish to keep receiving messages, reflections, and content to inspire your journey, do not forget to like this video, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Together, we can build a space of growth, acceptance, and transformation. Your presence here makes all the difference. Thank you from the heart, and until next time.